I want to talk about some common misconceptions about the guitar and as it relates to music theory that keep coming up over and over and over again. And they probably will keep coming up over and over and over again, but I just feel like getting this out of my system, okay? All right, so here goes. Maybe you've heard this, maybe you haven't. Occasionally somebody will say, the guitar is in E. It's in the key of E. Why is that? Well, because the open E string is the lowest note, so that means the guitar is in E. Well, it doesn't really work that way. When people talk about instruments being in a key, it's usually a trumpet or a clarinet or a saxophone. These are instruments that are in keys like E flat or B flat. What that really means is these instruments transpose the music written down on the staff so that the note C for the clarinet, say, is actually a B flat. And so when people read music for those instruments, they are reading the notes in a different place than they would otherwise be reading them. In fact, the guitar transposes an octave. So notes for the guitar are written an octave higher than they are supposed to sound in standard pitch. The note middle C on the guitar, that's the note middle C, whether you play it on the guitar or on the piano. That note for the guitar, though, is written on the third space from the bottom of the staff, whereas on the piano or the violin, or if you were a singer who was reading music, you would see that note on the first ledger line below the staff. That said, the key of C, well, very often people will say, well, there's no way to really know where the notes of the key of C are on the fingerboard because the arrangement of notes on the fingerboard is not very logical. Well, this is also a real mistake. The system of music that we use on the guitar is sort of designed to fit into the diatonic system. The way the frets are arranged and the way the instrument is tuned is very accommodating of the diatonic system, but you have to know how to approach it. It's sort of a little bit encrypted, so the confusion is understandable. But I'll show you how you can easily recognize and find all the notes of the key of C on the fingerboard, and I will do it for you in less than a minute. All the open strings are natural tones. Those notes are in the key of C. All the notes on the 5th fret are natural tones in the key of C. So we have E, A, D, G, B, E, A, D, G, C, E, A. The 10th fret is also all natural tones, notes of the key of C, D, G, C, F, A, D. When you get to the 11th fret, there are no notes belonging to the key of C on the 11th fret. These would all be black keys on the piano, the sharps and flats. The 12th fret is the same as the open strings, so the pattern begins again from the 12th fret up. What else is left? Okay, we've got the open strings, the 5th fret, and the 10th fret. Now we have the open B, C, E, F. Those B, Cs, E's, and Fs, they form clusters all over the fingerboard that you can easily find if you know how. I'll show you exactly what I mean. We have the open E, F, B, C, E, F, B, C, E, F, B, C. B, C, E, F, B, C, E, F, B, C, E, F. Okay, how many notes are left? Exactly 7. A, D, G, A, D, G, and G. That's it. I just played every single note, all 42 note positions in the key of C between the open strings and the 10th fret, and I added a couple more up here just for fun. It's just going to make everything better in your life. Things will taste better, colors will be brighter. You name it. You'll thank me later. Okay, there is no B sharp, C flat, E sharp, F flat. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. I have occasionally crossed paths with someone who will say, well, I teach guitar and I tell people there is no B sharp, there's no E sharp, there's no C flat. I tell them that because it's too complicated and I'm trying to keep things simple for them. Well, E sharp, C flat, B sharp, F flat, these are real notes. There is no debate about this in the musical community among people who are professional musicians and play music all the time. If it's too complicated for you, don't worry about it. You will rarely encounter these notes even though they are real and legitimate. They don't come up that often, so it's easy enough to just kind of brush it under the rug and not have to explain it. But it's better if you understand how the system works and why these notes are an essential part of the system. Yes, B sharp, C flat, E sharp, F flat are real notes, and they belong in the musical vocabulary, and they belong in your musical vocabulary. Blah, in your musical vocabulary, so don't let anyone tell you different. Okay. Learning basic music theory is like advanced math. The cage system is so much easier. Whoa. Okay. So basic music theory is you don't have to use math at all dealing with basic music theory. I personally, I have the worst math anxiety of anyone I know. And this has been true all my life. But I have no problem with music theory. Why? Because when people talk about music being mathematical, they're talking about all kinds of things that have nothing to do with basic music theory. They're talking about Pythagorean theorems, and they're talking about, it's not basic. That's not basic theory. Basic theory is you count alphabet letters. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There are 7 alphabet letters. So far, no math. Counting is not math. Numbers are not inherently math. Numbers function the same way letters do. They are labels. They identify what you're doing, and there is no mathematics involved. When you play a chord that has a root, a third, and a fifth, root, thirds, and fifths. Thirds and fifths are not fractions. You're talking about the third alphabet letter from the root and the fifth alphabet letter from the root. That's what third and fifth means. Not a third of something or a fifth of something in the sense of a fraction. So again, no math. Counting, yes. A lot of counting beats, counting key degrees, steps of the scale, going up and down the scale. You count the notes one by one. A, B, C, D, or C, D, E, F, G, A, B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The numbers simply identify alphabet letters. So not math. The cage system, where you have a C-shaped chord, an A-shaped chord, a G-shaped chord, an E-shaped chord, and a D-shaped chord, is great for identifying these areas of the fingerboard where the notes fall, and where you can find the same chord in different parts of the fingerboard. It's great for that. It's a wonderful mnemonic that helps to get a sense of how you can move around the fingerboard. What it is not, and what in my humble opinion it should never have become, is an entire shadow music theory system where instead of learning the names of the chords that you're playing, this becomes a C-shaped chord rooted with the first, I don't know what it is. Is it the first finger on the second fret, the fourth finger on the fifth fret? The root note is the lowest note. So I guess this is a C shape with the root on the fifth fret. This is a C shape with the root on the seventh fret. This is a D major triad. Root, third, fifth, root. A D major triad. It is not a C shape, except in your mind if it helps you to understand what you're playing to a certain degree. At a certain point, you must let the cage system go away and call things what they are, so that when you talk to a piano player and you say, I'm playing a D major triad, and the notes are D, F sharp, A, D, you do not tell them it is a C shape. A C shape, and this is an A shape. You know what I'm saying. The piano player does not have to understand the cage system to communicate with you, the guitar player. Should not have to. The piano player and the guitar player and everyone who plays any other Western musical instrument should be speaking the same musical language. Name the notes, tell them what you're playing based on that. This D major chord has a root, a fifth, a root, and a third. Root 5, root 3. This is root 3, 5, root. That's no more complicated than some of the sort of variations of the cage system that I've come across. Cage system becomes a shadow music theory method, which, again, in my humble opinion, is no simpler than understanding actual basic music theory. You don't have to replace music theory with the cage system to play the guitar. Basic music theory is not that hard. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Okay. The notes on the fretboard don't follow a logical pattern. Well, I think I just took care of that one. There's plenty of logic to the patterns of notes on the fingerboard. It's not that mysterious if you understand basic music theory. I'm going to keep coming back to that. But again, I'm just going to repeat. Open strings, 5th fret, 10th fret. Learn the names of the notes on those fret positions, then learn the names of the E's, F's, B's, C's, E, F, B, C, E, F, B, C. Get all of those down, and then start identifying those notes numerically. It's not math, it's just numbers. In other words, E, F, B, C becomes 3, 4, 7, 1. Why? Because the key of C rules, right? The key of C is the baseline, the starting point for music theory in the diatonic system. C is note number 1, D is note number 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7. You just number the notes and you replace the note names with the numbers, and then you have a movable system so that every key follows the same numerical structure. E, F, B, C, E, F, B, C, E, F, B, C becomes 3, 4, 7, 1, 3, 4, 7, 1, 3, 4, 7, 1. So that instead of being in the key of C, if you're in the key of D, you can use those numbers as a quick way of identifying what notes you're playing. So in other words, D, E, F sharp is the third of D. F sharp, G, C sharp, D. F sharp, G, C sharp, D. F sharp, G, C sharp, D. Or 3, 4, 7, 1, 3, 4, 7, 1, 3, 4, 7, 1. I can do it here. 3, 4, 7, 1, 3, 4, 7, 1, 3, 4, 7, 1. Those are the half steps in whatever key, and that will give you a very logical way to find your way around the fingerboard. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most useful techniques you can know. So don't let anyone tell you different. Okay, terminology, roots, tonics. What is a final? Okay, let's start with the idea of the final. The final is a word you don't hear very much because it's a little bit academic, perhaps. Modes have finals. The note that the mode begins and ends on is a final. This really helps in understanding modes because modes rely not just on where they start, but on where they end. Where you end a musical idea is as important, if not more important, than where it begins. It's where you lead. Where things resolve, how things resolve. When you see a piece of music that's in a major key or a minor key, they both have the same key signature. How do you know whether it's in a major key or a minor key? You know because of where the music goes to, not just where it starts. So modes are scales, essentially, that begin and end on a specific note, begin and end. So the beginning and the end of a mode is the final of the mode, F-I-N-A-L, final. Chords have roots, thirds, fifths. Interval have roots. Any interval and any series of intervals has a root followed by a numerical identifier for all of the other notes that follow from the root. Scales, people say the scale has a root, the root of the C major scale. Scales don't have roots. Scales have tonics, or in the case of modes, finals. Tonic usually refers to the note that the key is rooted in. The key is built on. Okay, so if you're in the key of C, C is not the root, it is the tonic. And it helps to refer to that as the tonic because it's enough to use the word root to name the first note of each chord you play. Okay, so the root of a C major chord is C. The tonic of the key of C major is also C. And when you're in the key of C and you play a C major chord, you can refer to the chord root if you're talking about the chord. But if you're talking about the key itself, then you refer to the tonic. It works for me. What can I say? All right. Theory will destroy your creativity. All I know, I can't speak for everybody, but I don't know anyone who has learned music theory and has ever regretted it. I don't know anyone who says, wow, man, I wish I'd never learned what the names of all those notes were, because now I can't be creative anymore and I can't play with feeling. I mean, it's just gotten in the way. I can't do it. I don't know anyone who's ever said that. I don't think anyone in the world has ever said that. I know that I am a better player now. I'm a better musician now that I have learned all this stuff, all this theory, all these academic ideas. I'm a better player now knowing music theory than I was when I started, when I was playing intuitively and didn't know the names of most of the chords I played when I started out. I mean, yes, I was 9 years old and I took 2 guitar lessons, and then I just kind of figured it out from there. And so I went through that whole process of, emulating some of my idols who, they didn't know how to read music, or, they said they didn't. You can run out of creative juices for a lot of reasons. Stuff goes on in your life, you're not inspired, you just fall into a rut. One of the best ways to get out of those kinds of ruts creatively is to hone your craft, learn the vocabulary and the language of your chosen vocation. If you want to play guitar and you want to get good at playing guitar, if you want to be a serious musician on some level, the more you know about the thing you're doing, the better. You do not need to be afraid of losing your creativity or not playing with feeling or suddenly feeling like you must paint inside the lines and play by the rules. Doesn't matter what kind of music you play, there's always going to be limitations that you have to work within stylistically. Music theory just gives you a way to describe stuff. It gives you a way to identify what you're playing, not just to other people, but to yourself, to think about it, so that you don't have to rely on muscle memory all the time. You have patterns that you can call up. You can bring them to the top of your head while you're playing, and then you can say, I know what a 6th chord is, or I know what a 13th chord is, and I don't have to just think, okay, that one's called, that one's called Sydney, and this one is called, Frida. Give me a break, Okay? Don't let anyone tell you different. Oh, wait, that doesn't make sense. Okay, I have a list here of stuff that I was going to talk about, and so I guess I'm at the bottom of the list. If there are any other weirdnesses that you feel need to be addressed in music and music theory that you've heard of, please maybe just say something about it, in that thing down there. Okay? All right. See you around.